The sky over Earth cracked with color the night she arrived. A great streak of silver tore across the clouds and vanished behind the mountains. People thought it was a falling star, but in truth, it was a ship, small, silent, and wounded. It came down not with fire, but with quiet sadness, as if it didn't want to be found. And inside that broken vessel was her, the alien princess. Her name was Virella, and she was unlike anything this world had ever seen. Her skin shimmered like the inside of a pearl, soft and glowing in moonlight. Her eyes were too deep, too wise, and held a pain that felt older than time. Long threads of silver hair fell across her shoulders like rivers of moonlight. She was beautiful in a way that made the heart ache, like a forgotten song suddenly remembered. But she was afraid. She had escaped something terrible. Her people had been betrayed, her throne stolen. She fled through the stars, alone, searching, for a place that wouldn't fear her, a place that wouldn't treat her like a monster. Earth was never meant to be her landing. She staggered from the wreckage, feet bare against wet grass, hands clutching a golden orb that pulsed with gentle warmth. It was all she had left of her home. Her guards were gone. Her voice had grown hoarse from crying out during re-entry, and the strange air of this blue world made her feel like she was drowning on dry land. She collapsed near a river, half hidden by willows where no one saw her fall, except Renard. Renard was not a soldier, not a leader. He was a simple man, a builder, a man who shaped wood with his hands and listened to the wind when it spoke. He lived alone by the edge of the forest, in a cottage filled with carved animals and quiet music. He found her at dawn, lying among wildflowers, her hair tangled in leaves. At first, he thought she was an angel, or a ghost. Then she opened her eyes. The fear in them hit him like thunder. But even more than the fear was trust, not complete, but a sliver. Enough. She tried to speak. Her voice cracked. He knelt slowly. "You're safe. I'm not going to hurt you." Her lips moved. "Ça? Fille?" "Yes," he said, laying his coat around her shoulders. "Safe." She flinched at every sound, every bird call, every snapping twig. But she didn't run. She looked at him, trembling, broken, and somehow still regal, like she didn't know how to be anything else. He carried her back to his cottage. She weighed little more than a dream, and for the first time in his life, Renard felt like he was holding something that mattered more than anything else in the world. Renard placed her gently on his bed, the softest place he had. His hands trembled, not from fear, but from something deeper, something he didn't yet have words for. She was alien, yes, but not cold or strange. She breathed like he did. She shivered like he did. And when she looked at him with those wide, glowing eyes, he saw not a creature from beyond the stars, but a soul that had been shattered. He brought her water, warm broth, and covered her with blankets stitched by his late mother. She sat quietly, unsure of how to eat, unsure of everything. Her fingers fumbled with the spoon, and he showed her gently. She copied him, clumsy at first, then graceful. When she finally spoke again, her voice was soft. "Virella." He blinked. "Is that your name?" She nodded once. "Virella," he repeated, trying to shape it gently with his tongue. "I'm Renard." She tilted her head, then spoke it back, her voice like wind brushing through wind chimes. "Renard." He smiled. It wasn't perfect, but it made his heart ache in a new, sweet way. For the next few days, he cared for her. He watched over her like one would guard a fragile flame during a storm. She learned quickly, absorbing words and gestures. She moved like someone used to elegance, but now walking through a world made of thorns. Sometimes, she'd stare at the moon and whisper things he couldn't understand, in a language that sounded like rivers and bells. She never told him what happened. Not fully. But he saw the pain in her eyes when she touched the golden orb. It lit up with her emotions, soft green for calm, pale pink for warmth, a painful red when she dreamed at night and cried out in her sleep. Renard never asked her to explain. He only made sure she was safe. One evening, as they sat by the fire, she reached for his hand. Her fingers were cool, almost like mist, but they gripped his with a strange certainty. "You protect," she whispered. He looked at her, surprised. "I'm just a man, Virella. I don't even know what you're running from." She touched his chest. "Not just. You carry light." He didn't understand, but the way she said it made his chest tighten. Virella began to explore outside during the day. She liked the sound of wind through trees, the smell of rain-soaked soil, and the feel of her bare feet on moss. Renard watched her from the doorway, smiling as she touched each leaf like it was a treasure. She smiled more often now. Sometimes she laughed, a soft musical sound that made birds stop singing just to listen. But peace never lasts forever. One morning strangers came, not from space, but from the village. Word had spread of a glowing woman, a pale ghost wandering the forest. Superstition had roots in fear, and fear made people cruel. They came with shouts, with torches, with sharp stones clenched in shaking fists. "Witch!" someone cried. "Monster!" Renard ran to her side before they reached her. She didn't run, she only looked at him. Confusion. On her face, her hand clutching the orb. He stood between her and the angry crowd, heart pounding. "She's not a threat," he shouted. "She hasn't hurt anyone." But they didn't want to listen. Fear doesn't care about truth. A stone flew. It missed him by inches. Another struck the door of his cottage. Virella whimpered, shrinking behind him. "Get away from her, Renard!" an old man yelled. "You don't know what she is!" "I know enough," Renard roared, arms wide. Another stone hit his shoulder. Pain flared, but he didn't move. He stood firm, arms shielding her like a wall made of flesh and soul. "She is kind," he cried. "She is lost. And if you throw another stone, you'll have to go through me first." Virella's hand touched his back. Her orb glowed golden, and, in that moment, she whispered something in her language, words full of power and sorrow and love. The wind swirled around them. The leaves rustled as if in prayer. But the crowd didn't stop. Renard stood tall. Blood trickled from his forehead. Now, but he didn't fall. He would not let the world hurt her. Not again. The third stone hit Renard in the ribs. He gasped, staggered, but didn't fall. Virella clutched his shirt from behind, her fingers trembling. She didn't understand why they hated her. She hadn't spoken to them, hadn't shown power, hadn't harmed a single creature on this planet. But hate had no need for reason. Renard took a shaky breath. "Leave, now, or I'll defend her." The villagers paused. Maybe it was his voice, raw with pain and fury. Maybe it was the look in his eyes, wild and burning. They weren't used to seeing him like this. Renard, the quiet woodworker, the man who helped fix roofs and carved toys for the children. The man who once mourned a dog for 3 weeks like it was family, and now he stood like a warrior, between them and a being they didn't understand. The crowd muttered, glancing at one another. A woman near the front lowered her stone, biting her lip. One by one, they turned, not convinced, not accepting, but shaken. They left in silence, fading into the trees like ghosts. Only when the last footsteps vanished did Renard drop to his knees. "Renard!" Virella cried, catching him as he fell back. Blood smeared across his temple, his breath shallow. "I'm fine," he whispered. "Just a few bruises. Maybe a cracked rib." She placed his head in her lap, the golden orb clutched between them. Its color shifted, glowing a soft lavender. Her hair fell around him like a curtain, her hands gently stroking his face. "You shielded me," she whispered, voice thick with emotion. "You burned to keep me safe." His eyes opened, dark but warm. "I'd do it again. You didn't deserve that." She looked down at him, eyes glimmering with something more than tears. Awe, wonder, a quiet kind of love that had nothing to do with touch, but everything to do with the soul. "I don't understand this planet," she said. "It is so beautiful and so cruel." He chuckled weakly. "Yeah, that's about right." She bent lower, their foreheads touching. "But you are neither cruel nor afraid. You're different." "I'm just a man," he whispered again. "No," she said. "You are hope." That night, the stars felt closer. The moon hung low, watching them. Virella wrapped his wounds gently, learning from old books he'd kept. Her fingers were soft, and each time they touched his skin, he felt something stir. Beneath the pain, she sang to him, a lullaby from her world. It didn't have lyrics in his language, but the melody wove into his heart. It felt like falling asleep under warm sunlight, or standing still in the middle of falling snow. The orb pulsed between them, as if sharing her feelings without words. Gold, rose, violet, colors of deep care, of quiet longing. Renard felt her hand. "Slip into his. I don't have a home anymore," she whispered. He looked at her, tired but sure. "You have one now." Virella's eyes widened. She searched his face as if trying to find a lie. But there was none. His voice was low, honest, without poetry. But it reached into her, deeper than anything ever had. "I don't know your customs," she said. "I don't know how your people share affection." He raised a brow, smiling despite the ache. "I think it starts with being close, listening, trusting." She leaned closer. "Like this?" He nodded. Their lips almost touched. Not quite, just breath to breath, heartbeat to heartbeat, close enough to feel each other's soul reaching out. She pressed her cheek to his. "I want to stay," she whispered. He closed his eyes. "Then stay." And in that moment, the stars whispered something ancient, something beautiful. Two souls. One, born of earth, one of the stars, had begun to thread together, and neither of them would ever be alone again. The following days passed gently, like the hush after a storm. Renard's bruises healed slowly, and Virella never left his side. She learned to cook simple meals, though she always tilted her head curiously at the boiling water or sizzling pan. Her fascination with everything, flour, wind, the way his wooden door creaked when opened, made Renard laugh softly more often than before. She'd sit on the porch in the morning, watching birds build nests. Sometimes she'd hum that soft, river-like melody from her world. Renard would listen while sharpening his tools, comforted by the sound even when he didn't understand the meaning. They didn't speak of the villages. They both knew it wasn't over, but they cherished this peace like it was something sacred. One evening, as the sky burned orange and gold, Virella turned to him. "Why do your people fear what they do not know?" Renard thought for a moment, rubbing his jaw. "Because the unknown reminds them they're small, that there's more out there than their own little world." She nodded slowly, her eyes distant. "Where I'm from, new life is embraced. Curiosity is treasured." He smiled. "I like your world already." "It's gone," she said quietly. He looked at her and she didn't flinch. "I didn't just fall from the sky, Renard. I fled. My people were taken, scattered. Some resisted. Many were broken. Her voice caught. "I escaped, and that orb, it holds what's left of my home, Memories, power, pieces of my ancestors. He stepped closer, gently brushing her hand. Then we'll protect it. Together. She looked up, the last light of day painting her face in soft gold. Would you really stand beside me again? Even if more come? Even if it means pain? I'd shield you with more than my soul, he said softly. I'd give you my whole life if that's what it took. Her eyes filled, glowing faintly. Then I must tell you one more truth, Renard. He nodded, silent. My kind, she whispered. Bind through emotion, not just words, not just ritual. We merge spirit with spirit. That's what the orb does. It recognizes the soul that touches us deeply. If I use it now, it will choose you. His chest tightened, but not from fear, from something electric and warm. What happens then? We will be connected, not just close, joined. No lie can pass between us. Your thoughts, your hopes, your pain, I will feel them as if they are mine. And mine, yours. A soft wind stirred the leaves around them. The sky deepened into twilight. Is that what you want? He asked, voice low. She nodded, her hands gently taking his. Yes, but only if you choose it freely. He didn't hesitate. Then let's do it. Whatever it means, I'm not afraid. She smiled, slow, radiant, as if 1,000 suns rose inside her. She held the orb between them. It pulsed once, twice, then gently it floated. Golden light spilled out, wrapping around them like mist. It shimmered over Renard's arms, curled into his chest, and wove between their fingers. Suddenly, his breath caught. He saw flashes, visions, not his own. Varela as a child, laughing under a blue tree. Her people dancing in spirals of floating light. Her mother singing a goodbye. The cold void of space, loneliness, fear, hope, and she felt him too, his quiet childhood. The night he lost his father, his secret love for the stars. The ache of growing up surrounded by silence, the yearning for something more. The orb settled back into her hands, dim now. They stood there, stunned by the weight and wonder of what had just passed between them. I felt you, he whispered. I feel you still, she replied, her voice like warm starlight. She reached out, resting her forehead gently against his. Now, Renard, I'm not just here. He wrapped his arms around her, heart pounding. You're with me. They didn't kiss. They didn't need to. Their souls had already spoken louder than lips ever could. Days turned to weeks. The world outside the forest moved on, but inside Renard's cottage, time softened. Varela planted new flowers along the path, ones from seeds tucked into the folds of her silken robe, flowers that glowed faintly at night. Renard built her a bench in the garden, carving starlit patterns into the wood. They shared everything now, not just thoughts or feelings, but something deeper. If he was troubled, she felt it before he said a word. When she dreamed of her fallen world, he woke up reaching for her hand, already knowing. Their connection wasn't always quiet or sweet. Sometimes it burned. Sometimes they laughed so hard they cried. And sometimes, in the still hours before dawn, they simply held each other, speaking nothing, needing nothing but the warmth between them. But peace never lasted forever. One rainy morning, the village elder came. She stood at the edge of the trees, hood pulled low, her staff tapping the wet ground. I come not in anger, she said, as Renard approached, wary. But others are still afraid. He didn't answer. They say she's dangerous, the elder went on, that her kind brings ruin, fire from the sky, madness. Renard's jaw clenched. She brings light, kindness, healing. They only saw her through fear. The old woman sighed. I saw what you did. shielding her, taking the blows meant for her. A soul doesn't do that unless it's already been bound. His silence confirmed it. She's not going to hurt anyone, Renar said softly. She only wants to live. The elder nodded slowly. Then let her live. But be ready. The world is watching now. What you two are. It's never happened before. Renar's voice was calm, steady. Then let the world learn from it. When he returned, Virella stood on the porch, eyes watching the sky. You heard? He asked. She nodded. They will not accept me yet. Maybe not, he said, wrapping his arms around her waist. But they'll see what we are. And in time, they'll understand. Her eyes met his, deep, luminous, endless. And if they don't, then I'll keep standing in front of you, he whispered. Every time. Tears shimmered in her eyes, but she smiled. You are not just brave. You are my soul. That night, under a sky thick with stars, they stood by the glowing flowers she had planted. The orb pulsed gently between them, no longer. Gold, but a soft mixture of both their colors, his earthy tones, her celestial light. It was no longer a relic. It was a promise. And as they stood hand in hand, two souls intertwined. The forest whispered around them. Birds slept, leaves glistened in moonlight. Above them, far beyond the reach of stone or fear, the stars sang, because even if the world tried to break her, he had shielded her with more than his body. He had given her his soul, and she had given him everything in return. They were no longer just alien and human. They were love, bound by courage, healed by connection, proof that even across galaxies hearts could find one another, and when they did, not even the weight of the world could tear them apart.